evening, dear viewers of Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. Representation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. First, our major stories. The former divisional officer for Lekonje in the South region has been sentenced to 10 years imprisonment by the Bolowa military court. Frank Deleng was found guilty of the murder of his girlfriend, Lydian Solange, at his residence 4 years ago. In this edition of the news, we'll tell you what happened on that fateful July 25th, 2020. Meantime, a 6-year-old girl gets raped to death and a lifeless body dumped in an uncompleted building in Bangante, a locality in the west region of Cameroon. The macabre discovery was made 48 hours after Shalom Duya had been declared missing by family members. We'll also talk in this newscast on insecurity as the Cameroon Development Corporation (CDC) faces a new attack from unidentified individuals who invaded the CDC land in Ombe, bulldozing close to 500 palm trees. To the general manager, this is a big blow to recovery strides of the institution. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Once more, good evening and thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television. The divisional officer for Lekonje, who murdered his girlfriend Lydian Tambe in Kribi, has been sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. He will also have to pay the sum of 45 million francs CFA to the Taba family. The verdict was handed over today in Ebolowa in the presence of some lawyers of the Taba family. Annabella reports.
The news came as a sign of relief to the group of universal lawyers and human rights defenders who stood for justice in the murder of Taba Lydian, a 23-year-old student who was murdered in cold blood by her then boyfriend, a divisional officer. Barrister Dominique Frost is one of the family lawyers.
It's a good thing, a good day for the whole family of Lydian Taba. After 4 years, you said it, after many difficulties, justice is said.
After several hearings, the murderer has been sentenced to 10 years in prison, plus a fine of 45 million francs CFA to be paid to the deceased family.
Pour rendre un petit peu hommage à Lydian Taba, cette jeune femme qui est morte, qui portait en elle un bébé.
The team of universal lawyers made up of 6 legal minds say the trial period was hectic. From physical to verbal threats and even intimidation, they however stood their ground for justice to be served. The murderer Frank Deleng Eyono Ebanga, according to lawyers after the verdict in Ebolova on March 6, was whisked off to his prison cell in the presence of Barrister Masi Joshi, one of the lawyers of the late Lydian Taba.
We are sure from now that he will spend his first night in the prison today.
Lydian was killed some 4 years ago by his then boyfriend and a divisional officer for Lekonje. Cases of femicide are rampant in Cameroon and the culprit most times go scot-free. The punishment inflicted on the murderer and the divisional officer comes to assert that justice is still possible in Cameroon.
And cases of women and girls being victims of violence continues in Cameroon. And in a similar story, the lifeless body of a 6-year-old girl has been discovered in Pendong, a neighborhood in Bagante, west region of Cameroon. According to her family, the child was brutally raped to death and her body abandoned in a building. She was discovered 48 hours after she was declared missing on Thursday, February 29, 2024. Details with AC Luciliengo.
Family members of 6-year-old Simon Duya Shalom are still in shock following the macabre discovery of their daughter. The little girl, according to her family, was raped to death and her body kept in an abandoned building in Pendong, a neighborhood in Bangante, West Region. I wasn't around. My wife called saying a little girl is not back from school and she has visited the school but is closed. Stemon Dunya, a pupil of Standard Bilingual School on Thursday 29 of February 2024, left for school in the morning but never returned. Series of investigations carried out were all in vain. The little girl was discovered by an inhabitant on Friday, 1st of March 2024 at about 10 p.m. We received an anonymous call informing us of a lifeless body in a building. An autopsy carried out on the corpse revealed that the 6-year-old was brutally raped before giving up the ghost. The perpetrator of this atrocity is yet to be identified as investigations have been opened. Meantime, the lifeless body of the little girl has been deposited at the Bangante District Hospital mortuary.
And the recent discovery of the lifeless body of a 6-year-old girl in Bangante West Region is just one out of the many cases of women who have been kidnapped, raped, and later killed. A disturbing situation for civil society activists who are expressing worries while proposing solutions to the end or an end to the growing phenomenon. Malaglari tells us more.
Reports has revealed that the rate of infanticide and child homicide in Cameroon is increasing at a fast rate, a situation that has brought fear to many homes. According to civil society actors, these atrocities persist in our society because the perpetrators are free.
Over 20 years, we've been having cases of children being killed and their private parts stolen. We've been having cases of femicide. How many people have we seen penalized for such acts?
We have like the case of Bangante, a 6-year-old child being killed and abandoned like that. If it is not a 6-year-old child, you meet a young lady with plenty of vision and ambition, abandoned at the roadside, at times mutilated, her private parts taken away. These things are not being done by persons ex nihilo. These things are being done by individuals, by human beings that will live with them on a daily basis. So
parents on their part have the duty to keep an eye on their kids, though their efforts may be limited if the government do not play their role.
The responsibility also goes back to the homes. What are parents doing to protect their children? Do they have the capacity to protect those children? Okay, do they have the resources? A lot of times you have parents who struggle from morning till night trying to get what their kids will eat, right? Which means that the economy in itself is not facilitating the work. There are structures within the state that are supposed to work together to handle these issues.
A report from the Cameroon Baptist Convention reveals that over 50% of children in Cameroon have been abused. The situation is further worsened by violence committed on these little ones. Thus, a clarion call for authorities to take appropriate measures to end infanticide and femicide in Cameroon.
And over to one of our major lead stories. Unidentified individuals have once again stormed the CDC palm plantation in Umbe, destroying close to 500 palm trees ready to be harvested. This comes at a time when the government and the CDC staff are putting in efforts for the recovery of the dependent institution. The CDC General Manager terms the destruction on the close to 4 hectares of land as regrettable. Innocent Aze reports.
A new attack on the state institution at Ombe saw the destruction of close to 500 palm trees set to boost production by persons under investigation who encroached 3.5, close to 4 hectares of the CDC land.
There's been an illegal felling of a good number of trees. By CDC estimates, that's about 450 trees. For CDC, it is very, very important because we know that the trees are our capital. That is what CDC is all about. CDC is all about the rubber tree, the palm tree, and the banana. From the questions I've asked my collaborators here on the field, there seems to be no basis for this destruction that has happened by whosoever.
Persons responsible for these, whether external or internal, will not go unpunished when identified.
We cannot just keep on pointing accusing fingers. We must see what is the problem and see where our own responsibility too may be called for. We are hopeful that the gendarmerie will use their competence to identify the persons who are responsible for that which has happened, and they should be brought to take their responsibility.
The yet to be identified persons smuggled themselves to get on the Ombe palm plantation when the SDO for Fako Division and representatives from the CDC, during a crucial meeting on January 11, 2024, settled on demarcating 3 hectares of CDC land at Ombe to host a bee logistics base for emergency reasons.
The bee authorities took possession of the land immediately and went ahead to bulldoze the 3 hectares that was designated for that purpose.
On the 29th of February, the men also bulldozed close to 4 hectares.
I got a hint of some irregularities surrounding that surrender to bee. I did some checks and immediately made a report to the Legion Commander of the Gendarmerie to expose the need for an investigation on the land surrender to the bee. I am sure the Gendarmerie is carrying out their work.
Due to this, rumors circulated the general manager was selling CDC land.
It's no one coming to see.
And in a related story, the Cameroon Development Corporation CDC is far from recovering from the devastating consequences of the over 7 years armed conflict. Though the situation is better now compared to 2018 and 2019, production remains very low given that the number of workers have dropped as a result of the Monday-imposed lockdowns, announced lockdowns and threats from armed separatist fighters. Innocent Aze tells us more.
The CDC is still managing to recover from the heavy blow of the armed conflict, which has posed a lot of security threats to the performance of the state institution.
We still have some challenges. CDC is an integral part of the society. We know that in the southwest region, once in a while there's a cause for concern. Once in a while there's a call for ghost towns, no activity. People are scared. People stay at home. But I think that has dwindled down considerably.
Production remains impacted by attacks on CDC workers, threats and fear.
We are not yet succeeding. It is still weighing on us.
The persistent ghost towns and lockdowns have been identified as the untreated cause, causing CDC to bleed more and more.
We still lose about 2 months of the 12 months that God has given us to ghost towns, Mondays. In 1 year, we are losing about 52 days. That's equivalent to 2 months out of the 12 that we have at our disposal. If you consider what we are supposed to do, CDC makes money from tapping rubber. If you don't tap rubber for 1 day, you don't tap on Monday. If you come on Tuesday and tap, you cannot catch up with what you have lost on Monday. It is gone.
Though government is doing its best to revive CDC, the staff of this vibrant and reliable state institution believes the ideal solution is maximum security.
Our objective is to get maximum security. Each worker wants to be sure that while you are tapping, the wrong person is not standing behind you with the wrong tool in his hand. We expect tapping knives, but at times our workers have been surprised by persons carrying the wrong tools in their hands. And it is a problem.
The state seems to be dancing to this rhythm as the CDC plantation sites are witnessing construction of at least 1 logistics base for the bee. This in a bid to boost the workforce and encourage daily production activities.
And away from news connected to the over 7-year-old armed conflict, the National Anti-Corruption Commission is stepping up the involvement of women in the fight against corruption. Under the supervision of NAC officials, 7 women are on a crusade against the ill in Douala. Babylele Jonathan tells us in this report.
Market women in Douala decrying corrupt practices.
Quand ils se présentent devant nous, ils nous stressent. On peut même chier même dans la vie, même pisser.
She says they are often pressured by price controllers to the point of almost messing up with themselves, even when they have proofs of no wrongdoing.
Quand demain tu montes ta facture, ce n'est pas leur problème.
They pay market dues to supposed tax collectors who do not issue receipts. And this is why the National Anti-Corruption Commission is in Douala to galvanize women to step up the fight against the ill now qualified as endemic in Cameroon.
As wives, as also parents, they can be very useful with them. We are sure that we will win, and the fight against consumers can succeed.
Launching the anti-corruption crusade in the Douala 2 Council, the National Anti-Corruption Commission chairperson, Reverend Dr. Divisional Masigams, points to the example of the Douala 2 mayor, Denise Fampu, who has been leading the municipality for 17 years, fighting corruption to preserve the council's revenue.
Beginning by 600 million of budget, she has reached a level of 4 billion.
Nous avons ensemble implémenté tous les éléments de l'anticorruption et depuis ce temps, nos recettes ont pris de l'envol parce que ça nous a permis de sécuriser nos recettes.
From here, the anti-corruption crusaders are deployed across the town of Douala and beyond to raise awareness.
Quand ils viendront prochainement nous arnaquer, on pourra appeler Equinoxe.
On aura le courage maintenant de dénoncer. S'ils viennent ici maintenant, je n'aurai plus peur.
Persuaded by their fellow women and other male Equinoxe agents and the presence of Equinoxe TV and radio, many of them are now ready to denounce corruption.
And several Cameroonians are hoping that the exercise will go a long way in the fighting corruption across the national territory. And now we move straight over to sports. The delegation of Team Cameroon to the African Games have been urged to honorably represent the country during the 13th African Games. The call was made by the Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Chief Professor Narcisse Mwelekombi, during the flag-handing ceremony at the Esplanade of the National Olympics and Sports Committee premises in Yaoundé. Smajikan Gabriel tells us more.
In the absence of Eseme Manuel Alogbede, the athletic king of Cameroon, it was Cameroon's judoka Baba Mafia Marie-Céline who collected the flag of Cameroon from the hands of the Minister of Sports and Physical Education during the farewell ceremony to the delegation of Team Cameroon heading to Accra, Ghana for the 13th African Games. The athletes have been given an objective. The objective for this year's edition is for Team Cameroon to be amongst the first 10 nations on the classification table. Team Cameroon has the potentials to achieve this objective as the athletes master their disciplines so well. During the ceremony, the personal representative of the President of the Republic was clear on the expectations of the country from the athletes. You are now invited to render to your country the honor it deserves. Put in your best to be on the podium, win medals and bring back to the country. The Accra Rendezvous should be an opportunity for you to demonstrate your strength and show the vitality of your youthfulness. The second Vice President of the National Olympics and Sports Committee of Cameroon had this message to the members of Team Cameroon. To the athletes and trainers, I'm asking you to bring in your best at both the sporting and ethical sectors of the competition to assure an honorable representation of our country during the Games, to reinforce the image of Cameroon outside. The delegation of Team Cameroon to Accra, Ghana is made up of 406 persons, amongst them 65 athletes, 19 coaches, 11 doctors, 7 team managers and 4 referees. Cameroon will participate in 8 disciplines and the hopes remain that they will do better than the 11 sports they occupied in 2019 when Morocco hosted the Games.
And that report put an end to this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Thank you so much for staying with us. Tonight, I'll be receiving Franklin Goni Comenjer. He is the General Manager of the Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC, and we'll be talking about the recent encroachment by some unknown individuals in the CDC land. Good evening. It is a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight. It is alleged that some portions of land belonging to CDC are being sold. Given that you are the General Manager of the CDC, I would like to know from you, are you selling CDC land?
That's an interesting one. I don't think it is possible for anyone to sell CDC lands legally. To sell CDC land, be it by general manager or whosoever, it means that person must tread on illegality. Because what is CDC land is state land, private state land, on long-term lease to CDC. At least the land in Faku. There's some other CDC land, the one in the Mongo region, which has a different status. That is titled land, is property of the corporation, and it constitutes parts of CDC share capital. So even there, nobody, be it general manager or whosoever, can dispose of any parcel of it legally. That's why what we saw today, and anything that can put itself under the same group, is encroachment. It is illegality.
Franklin Goni, in the report done by Innocent Aze, he made mention of an encroachment scandal. You are on the Palm site to establish the truth. What facts did you gather from security guards and the workers?
Reality is that we established beyond any doubt that there's illegal occupation of land, certainly under the pretext of the legal, the 3 hectares that was legally ceded to the Rapid Intervention Battalion for the construction of their logistic base. Some persons, I don't know who, may have taken advantage of that situation, of that activity in that area, and indulge into the illegality that we have seen today. There are many ramifications, many pointers in diverse directions as to what may have happened. We have a situation where it is likely that the bulldozer that carried out the clearing of the area that was legally put at the disposal of the B, it is likely that same machine that went out of the area that was demarcated for that purpose and carried out what we saw today as illegal felling of trees. For me as general manager of CDC, there are certain things that call for concern. In that, the estate manager, the sectional head, the security chief of post, all of them claim not to know what is happening. Interestingly, what happened, at least the felling of the trees, is supposed to have happened more than a year ago, and there's no official report. So there are question marks as to whether they did not see it, but I think it's visible to any eye that there's something that happened outside of what was permitted to happen. The fact that there's no report to that effect to hierarchy is a cause for concern.
From your statements, I have the impression that you are doubting the information given to you by security guards and workers who were on duty while the incident occurred. What if they are found guilty? What actions do you plan taking?
There are likely 2 levels of actions. At the level of CDC internally, we have our internal rules and regulations. And partaking or contributing in an illegal activity of the nature of what we have seen today has sanctions that go with that. there are procedures that have to be followed to establish the responsibility. On the other hand, CDC belongs to the state, and this country is a country of law. What we have seen there, which to me, if I would define it, if I would describe it simply, is that certain persons just go and unscrupulously fell trees belonging to someone else and take possession of the land on which those trees were standing. This is a state of law. That action is not far from anarchy, which cannot be contained in a state of law. It means that at the level of the state, the competent authorities that are there, one of which we have already contacted and is carrying out their work, their investigations, there's the gendarmerie, and most importantly, the competent courts. Responsibilities will be established and persons will have to face the consequences that go with such actions.
Now tell us, what efforts are currently being made by the management of CDC to clear the air on this affair?
I think in the first instance, one thing that we must understand about CDC is that we are a business entity. Okay? We are here to do business. We are here. This morning, you saw that those accompanying me were the group manager, PAMS, and other authorities who have to leave their normal work and come to attend to a distraction of this nature. We will have to take some actions to clear the air, because while the investigations are going on, it is likely that there may be further investigations of this nature. And being the type of establishment that we are, it may not be accommodatable for persons who are assuming certain responsibilities to be answering at this time to questions pertaining to this matter. So we are going to see, it may be possible that certain persons may be shifted in the first instance aside while the investigations are going out, on so that we concentrate on what we are called to do, because we must continue to produce palm oil and rubber and banana.
But then, while some of our reporters were speaking to some of the security guards of the Ombe palm plantation site, they revealed that a government surveyor termed the portion of land encroached as unlimited. Can you clarify us on this?
To me, absolute rubbish. Does not make sense. There's no space for that. It means anybody can come and show any parcel of CDC land and say, it belongs to me. It does not make sense. The estate itself is on a limited area. The section is on a limited area. So unlimited area is absurd. It's foolish. There's no sense. So whoever is receptive to a statement of that nature from whosoever, that person has to ask himself certain questions.
Franklin Goni Ikomenche, General Manager of the Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC, thank you so much for your time, and we want to say thank you to you all, dear viewers of Equinoxe Television. That's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. Stay in the company of more interesting programs on ETV.